like to call to order regular board meeting of October 12th, 2021 of the Las Virgenes Unified School District. We will begin with the flag salute. Dr. Stepp, would you lead us in the flag salute tonight?
Stand, hand over your heart, ready, begin.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Student board member? Aye. Board?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Approval of minutes of the September 28th board meeting.
Motion
I move
approved.
to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Student board member? Thank you very much. As we all know, you were named our LA County Superintendent of the Year out of 80 public school districts in the county, and we are extremely proud of that in our district. So we have a few presentations to make, a few special guests, and Wednesday was really the county celebration of Dr. Stepp and a surprise for him. So we sort of let them come in and do the way they like to do it, which was lovely. But tonight we wanted to do our own recognition of Dr. Stepanowski. And I don't normally like to read anything when I'm making remarks, but I found something that talked about leadership in crisis that was so perfectly descriptive of Dr. Stepp. And it feels a bit like we've been through a crisis in these past few years. You know, we went from Woolsey to a pandemic, and, you know, Teddy Roosevelt said something about without the war, you don't get the great general, without the great occasion, you don't get the great statesman. I actually think that's a bit wrong. I think he's the best superintendent day in, day out, even when we don't have a crisis. But I think this last year and a half, going on 2 years, has been exemplary. And even when things were very disrupted and it was a very stressful time, I never felt in doubt that we had someone in charge who was leading us capably. So this was just a short something that talked about what great leaders do in a crisis. They provide accurate information, current, candid, accurate information to others about the crisis. Ideally, science-based data, regular updates from credible sources to increase awareness of current conditions and what to expect next. The most effective leaders promote and model constant, open, and thorough two-way communication to keep information flowing and provide resources. Acquire critical resources. Leaders understand some resources are more critically needed than others, and they work actively to help people have access to those as quickly as possible. We were the first round of districts to get a lot of the PPE and a lot of the equipment we needed because from the very beginning, Dan had his team on it, and we really appreciate that. Providing support and encouragement. That one kind of speaks for itself. There was a lot of fear and anxiety at times about, are we meeting the needs of our students? What is school going to look like? What's the future hold? And his calm leadership really got us through that. Being accessible and approachable. That speaks for itself. Decisive and appropriate action. You know, there were times when parents having different views on things, people were like, take a poll. Just take a poll if you should open school. And I appreciate that Dan does not lead by survey, that he really makes a decision based on the best accurate information at the time. Shows honesty and integrity. Great leaders do what they say they will do. They talk the talk and walk the walk. Adapting when necessary. Well, this whole pandemic, we've all been adapting, right? That became our joke for a while. How many times can we say pivot? Because we're going to pivot and we're going to be nimble. Staying for the long haul. The best leaders work through until the crisis is over, and then working through recovery. After the crisis has passed, an extended period of recovering and rebuilding to get back to normal. I can remember early on when you said getting through the pandemic will not be hard as much as coming out of it. And that has been very true as we work to maintain a new normal and to get back to school. So on behalf of the board, we are just so incredibly proud. As I said the other day, there's an old Greek saying, anyone can helm the wheel when the seas are calm, but it takes someone very special to get us through this time. But again, you've been a great leader throughout this. So on behalf of the board, I want to first make a presentation to you. I will not read this proclamation. you get one of our pretty proclamations with all our schools. And then rather than just get you a plaque, we wanted to get you something that said Superintendent of the Year, but that was somewhat useful. So we got you this picture frame. You're free to put a picture of Sharon and the kids in here, but for now, this is from the board. So, thank you very much. So I have some special guests here, so who would also like to make a presentation. I will mention, I have something from Ted Liu's office, a certificate here, and also something from the city of Calabasas, who were not able to make it. So Jeremy Wolf, District Director for Senator Henry Stern, if you'd like to come up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Wolf with Senator Stern's office, but more importantly, Las Virgenes Unified alum. It's so great to be here amongst former teachers and friends and such esteemed community members to celebrate this well-deserved award. What a time it's been these last 2 years. And the Senator and Dr. Stepanowski were in touch, and when we had questions on what leadership would look like in our school districts, we knew the first call would be to Dr. Stepp. And so this is so well-deserved, and here's one of many proclamations and certificates you'll be getting. I hope you hang this one up, and well-deserved, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. And then we have Deborah Klein-Lopez, who is Mayor Pro Tem of Agora Hills, but also here in her capacity as District Director for Jesse Gabriel. Thank you.
I'm coming with props.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, wow, all right.
So,
This is my assembly jacket. So, on behalf of State Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel, we are so honored to present this certificate to Dan Stepanowski. We're so proud of you. You have been a wonderful partner working with the state legislature. You're always one of the first to call when things are going on. I know you work not only with Assemblymember Gabriel, but also our partner Assemblymembers Bloom and Irwin. And really, a lot of your input does, filter up to the state capitol, not just through your school district associations up there, but through the assembly as well. So the assembly member sends his deep congratulations, and I'm happy to present this to you on behalf of the assembly.
Quick change. Oh, whoa, more here. Oh, man. All right.
Hi, my name is Deborah Klein-Lopez, and I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Agora Hills. I'm going to hold on my city remarks right now because I'm going to have my fellow colleague, Elise Buckley-Weber, also make some comments. But wait.
All right. It's got to be yes.
All right. Most importantly, like Jeremy Wolf, I am an alum of Las Virgenes Unified, but I'm also the parent of 3, and I stand up here in deep gratitude as a parent. I met Dr. Stepanowski about 13, 14 years ago, and I know you'll be shocked, but it was over something we didn't agree upon. And there have been a lot of those moments over the decade plus that we've worked together, but we've worked together as parent faculty club capacity and Measure E and so many things. And I do want to say that even though we don't agree on everything, even to this day, as a parent, which is really my most important role up here, we're very thankful and proud of you. So thank you.
thank you. Am I next? Yes, you're next. So I'd like to invite my fellow council members up if they're comfortable being within 6 feet of me. So come on up, everybody. Dr. Stepanowski, I can only say for the entire city that it was such a pleasure last year during COVID that we didn't even have to worry about our school district. You guys handled everything. You are a great leader for our community, and we really appreciate everything you did. We have a little, I'm not going to read it, a proclamation for you. You can read it on your own time, but I do want to say, not only were you a great leader in the community getting us through the Woolsey fire, not only were you a great leader in the community of getting us through COVID and getting our kids back to school, but you also took the time to vaccinate about 1,000, 1,200 community members. And I being one of them, I couldn't have been happier that day to get that jab after watching it on TV. So thank you for thinking of us when you had a few extra shots. We really do appreciate it. We're very, very proud. This is an unbelievable honor for the city of Agoura Hills to have our local superintendent be LA County Superintendent of the Year. So keep up the good work. Go Chargers.
Actually, I want to say one comment myself, too, personally. First of all, I'm City Councilman member Chris Anstead from Agoura Hills, and I just want to say, actually, yeah, exactly. Actually, I just want to say, as a parent as well, I have two kids that went through the school systems here in Agoura, and Dan's leadership, by example, is something that I've never seen from any superintendent or any leader in the school systems. And that was something that even before the pandemic, that I knew that Dan was somebody special. And the one thing that nobody's talked about either tonight yet is Dan's original background and the fact that he was a naval officer for many years. And being that I'm a West Point grad and an Army officer, a former Army officer, I'm a little surprised that Dan had that leadership. Go Army, be Navy. But I think as a fellow officer, he exemplifies the motto, actually, one of the mottos, duty, honor, country. And duty, honor, city, and schools is Dan Stepanowski. And Dan, thank you very much again. I got it.
I'd like to thank the City of Agoura for turning out, and Council Member Linda Northrup and City Manager Nate Hamburger. We really appreciate you being here, and we love the relationship we have with the City of Agoura Hills, and I say that as a proud Agoura Hills resident, so thank you for coming. From the City of Westlake Village, Mayor Pro Tem Brad Halpern.
How am I going to keep up with that? Let's start. So I'm not an alum of the school district, but I feel like it with my three kids. They made it through, well, it was touch and go, to be honest, but they all can tie their shoes, and they all moved on to great things. No, we're not changing. Anyway, you know, I was thinking on the way here tonight, how many of the superintendents did I call after the Woolsey fire? During it, after it, the evacuations, with the uncertainty, with everything that was going on. The messaging was so all over the place, but there was one person who was giving out messaging that was clear and concise and calm, and that was our leader here. And so I continued to email him and just say just applause. Cut to COVID, same thing. I mean, the timing of this award for you is perfect because of the last few years. As far as running a school district, anyone could do that. But honestly, you know, I've known you for an awful long time. I've known all of you and just admire all of you, and you do a wonderful job. But hearing that you won this award, I just felt such pride. And on behalf of our city, I get to say this. We all feel this, and we're just so happy to have you as the leader and so proud of you receiving this award.
Thank you very much. Would any of my fellow board members like to make any comments?
Sure, thank you. I'll start. So Dan and I go way back. I was on the board when we first promoted Dan to superintendent. And Dan has always, his leadership style is he likes to hire rising stars. So when he's looking for cabinet members or principals or assistant principals, he really looks for that something special. And I can tell you that's what we were looking at when we promoted him, and he has exceeded mine and our expectations. I'm so proud. This is long overdue, in my opinion. Dan is so thoughtful, and he has great empathy, and he's calm. And to be honest, during COVID and anytime, Dan works 24/7. He cares deeply about our district, our people, our students, their families. This is on his mind all the time. Sorry, Sharon, that's his wife. But he does, he cares so deeply. He cares for our cities, for everyone. And in a crisis, I always say, a crisis really tests people. It really shows who we are, who you are in a crisis. And Dan was focused, even though, as Angela said, so much noise coming at him, right? We couldn't do anything right for a lot of people, right? But we were focused, we were pushing where we needed to push because our data showed certain things, but he was calm. And Dan is so excellent about looking around the bend, looking out at the horizon, knowing what's coming or what possibly is coming and being prepared for it. And I'm sure he was on a warship. He was the captain, whatever you were, on a ship during a war. So he had to steer that and be calm and have the confidence of his people in him. And that's what I think that Dan has, the confidence of the board, the people that work for him, people that work for our district and our community. And as Brad just said, hi Brad, as Brad just said, I'm just so proud to be in Las Virgenes, proud to be a parent of students who graduated, because personally, and I'm sorry I'm going on and on, I'm just so proud, but personally, I think it's Las Virgenes that got my kids off the payroll and them doing so well, not my parenting, no. So, but Dan, so proud of you, so excited for our whole community, for everyone, thank you. And tomorrow's back to work.
Congratulations, so well-deserved. I feel like it's not only a win for you, but it's a win for us and our school district, and I couldn't be more proud. We're this little small school district kind of tucked away, and it's really great that we get this kind of recognition and respect, and that you do. Speaking to you during the pandemic and January through March, you really were focused on what was happening to kids. And you had such conviction and compassion about what they needed and what we were going to have to do. And this entire team did. And that's what's made all the difference. And for so many of our kids, and speaking with other board trustees throughout the state, they're nowhere near as prepared as we were when it came to bringing kids back to school, reopening, what they were going to do with their strategic plans. They still don't have a strategic plan for their monies. So thank you so much for all you do for kids and for putting kids first.
I would like to say that I am so proud that Dan has received this recognition. I agree, it's long overdue. I think he's been very impressive as a leader. He has developed a huge team around him that can support him, and he's nurtured their leadership skills so that they can help us tackle many areas at once. I've been very impressed with his forethought and foresight and planning ahead, especially during this pandemic. And the fact that we are in a time where people are pulling apart and developing factions, and one person wants 100% of A and the other person wants 100% of Z, and he can find that true north and come to consensus with not only his board and his cabinet, but the staff. And it's been a very difficult time, and I am thrilled that you have this recognition.
I was to say, I was kind of touched by something Angela said, that it's been kind of a cycle of crisis the last couple of years. And I think, Woolsey isn't even the beginning of that cycle. I remember, we go back to the Parkland shooting, and that was probably when I had the chance to work most closely with you as I was board president at the time, and to see how you reacted to that and how this district moved faster than anyone in the region. I just remember that, we were the first district to conduct a complete safety audit, to take it seriously, to take action, and to move with the students and staff safety in mind, first and foremost. And I think that clarity and that laser-like focus on what is best for the students and what is best for the staff is what's guided us forward through each and every one of those crises. It's what made us decide that we should close our schools during the fire. It's what made us decide that we needed to get our kids back as soon as we could and to do everything possible we could to get that. It made you, not quite sure how you got a vaccination clinic on this site before many people could even get their vaccinations, but the ability just through raw determination to make that happen so that our teachers and staff felt safe and the community felt safe is just so I think representative of how you lead. And I wanted to end with a military quote as another military guy. You were outnumbered as usual. We have a couple Navy officers here, but we'll take care of you as we usually do. I would end with this. It's a great quote from Colin Powell, and I think it just really is very representative of your leadership. I picked an Army guy. The most important thing I learned is that soldiers watch what their leaders do. You can give them classes and lecture them forever, but it's your personal example they will follow. And I think that our staff had a fantastic leader at the helm to follow their leadership, and we are very grateful for all that you've done for us.
Thank you. Dr. Gleason, did you have, on behalf of staff, anything you wanted to?
Yes, Madam President, we have some slides. Going to go on a walk down memory lane. Show some images of Dan. So Dan is in rarefied air for being a superintendent in Southern California for a decade now. And so we're going to, each of the cabinet members are going to share an image. This is the image just across the street when Center at X opened. And it's really indicative of his leadership. He's willing to take risks, try new things, and be out front. There was no other model for this. And he, along with our board, took a tremendous leap of faith. And it's really set the future up for our district. If we look at our leadership team, Dan has hired every single administrator on our team. And so when you think about the generational impact of the leadership he's set up, but countless teachers and staff and what that does for our kids, it's really, really a legacy. And we're very, very lucky to have him. And next slide is Dr. Finneran.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason. There are 1,100 staff members that are fortunate to work with Dr. Dan. There's a much smaller group of us that have the great fortune of working with Dr. Dan on a daily basis in a very close way. And some of those days are very, very long, especially over the last few years through Woolsey and through COVID. And as we work so closely, I think there are three things that I can attest to that I see all the time from Dan. The first is his commitment, the second are his high expectations, and the third is his willingness to always learn. So when we talk about commitment, his decisions are always made with students at the center, and he is 100% committed to students above all else. So those scrubbers that you see on the left-hand side, which we became very familiar with, he was relentless about getting hundreds and hundreds of those. We worked as a team to get as many as we could. Just one example. It reminds me of a Wooden quote. John Wooden says, "You can never make up for a lost day. Don't think you can make up for it by working twice as hard tomorrow." And that is so true of Dan. Secondly, his high expectations. He had to get up on that damn ladder himself to inspect the roof because he wasn't satisfied with taking anyone else's word for it. So those expectations are very, very high, and he makes them very clear regularly. And he's always learning. Lately, we have questioned his reading choices. He has been reading some doom and gloom books, but we're giving him some alternative reading options. But he is an ever constant learner. And I think so much of what we actually learned in Woolsey in those pictures were so readily applied to our experiences with COVID. Cheers, Dan. It's a pleasure to work with you.
All right, so as evidenced by the conversation, Dan is really great at building teams, but he's also really great at caring about his teams. And as you can see here, he also likes to have a lot of fun while he's doing it. So we have lots of team retreats, team get-togethers, and those sorts of things. And as you can see, it's not above us to dress up and have a little bit of fun while we do it. So some of my fondest memories have been Dan caring for the team and making sure the team is positive and moving forward and going in the right direction and making us all feel a part of a great big family here that can be very successful at teaching our kids. Congrats, Dan.
So when thinking about what to say, Dan, I came across a quote that I think best describes you. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Dan's leadership can be seen in many areas, but no more than in his desire to see every LVSD student succeed. Every decision he makes takes into account how it impacts students. When the pandemic forced schools closed, Dan's primary concern was how to ensure students continue to receive their education. Dan is the reason LVUSD was in the forefront in LA County bringing students back on campus. There was no more vocal advocate for getting students back on campus in the entire county than Dan. Dan is a leader who inspires others working with him. He is always student-focused, as you can see right there. His recent recognition as Superintendent of the Year was not only well-deserved, but I agree with others here, long overdue. The students and staff of LVUSD are lucky to have a superintendent who takes such an active role in every child's education.
As the newest member of Cabinet, I wanted to highlight the positive and family-oriented culture that Dr. Dan has created. As you can see in this picture, they care about each other, they demonstrate spirit, and they're all about creating the power of moments for their students, their staff, families, and the community. Dr. Dan has been supportive in my new role, and I'm very thankful to work under his leadership. Congratulations on this very well-deserved recognition. Dr. Stepanowski, tonight I'd like to share a few qualities I really appreciate about you. These qualities are your forward thinking, keen planning, and ability to quickly think through what students, families, and staff most need to be successful in our schools. My favorite example of this is illustrated by these two photos. Last fall, when no other school district in LA County had begun in-person learning, we brought back special education and TK through grade 3 students back to campus. We did this through careful planning, intelligent thinking, and multiple means of communication led by Dr. Stepanowski. The photo on the left is Dr. Stepanowski narrating an informative family video, and on the right are the happy kindergarten students and a teacher at Sumac on November 9th, the day we reopened.
Jim, can we go back 2 slides? Mayor Halpern, what is going on there? Right there in the middle. He's got no comment. I'm just worried about his outfit, but look forward to seeing that in the holidays in a couple months here. All right, sorry. Skipping to my slides. I think for me personally, I just appreciate, you let us have fun, and I think that is, I'm saying that selfishly as a member of the cabinet team. I think when we went through a lot of adversity, we got through it with joy, and I felt like sometimes the harder that a situation became, the more we were able to kind of become close and laugh together. So selfishly, I appreciate that, but I really, for all of our, 1,100 employees, that culture resonates throughout each of our 14 schools. And what that does, I think, for our relationships, our camaraderie, and the ability to allow our folks to have a good time and laugh with each other, I think speaks the world about your leadership. And on behalf of all 1,100 employees, we appreciate it. So thank you.
So
We just had
sorry.
2 more slides, sorry. I know we've touched on this, but for the last 10 years, we have been very grateful to be under the leadership of Dr. Stepanowski. While all of us in Las Virgenes knew what a special leader we had, it took this crisis over the last 2 years to have the rest of the county see what we had as a special leader.
over way off in the western tip of the county. They realized that was where the true leader was, that was showing the courage to move forward, make the first decision to close schools, make the first decision to open schools. And all the while, our whole team was, scrambling behind the scenes, working feverishly to get all the PPE, set up new cleaning protocols, cleaning systems, HVAC systems to support the day those kids came back to campus. And we made sure our students were the first ones to come back under his leadership. I think these pictures show how much he's involved. He's out there. He led the way with, not only, as he mentioned, with the vaccine trials. We were the first in the entire region to have a vaccine clinic, and we made sure our staff was safe to return to on-campus learning. Just want to share the picture on the right. When we came back, we were short-staffed, and Dr. Stepanowski didn't even hesitate. He was at the cafeteria, and he was serving lunches to make sure that all of our staff and our students felt supported during these challenging times. So hats off and hearts out to you, Dan.
Thank you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but Ms. Burnt, our student board member, and Ms. Gavin.
The next slide is perfect for the student board member.
Perfect. Yes, I did want to add, so on behalf of all the students, we truly congratulate you and thank you. It's very clear all the work you put in and how much you truly care about the students. A memory I have is I remember when I was in middle school at Lindero, we put on a color run, and I remember you had came and ran with us, and I remember we took a selfie, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever that I was taking a selfie with my superintendent. And it's been very clear since then, and since I've been in this district, and every student here can see how much you care about the students. You show up to the events, you work so hard, and we truly all see that and appreciate you. So thank you so much.
We have two student board members. They take turns rotating at the dais, and this is Ms. Willow Gavin from Calabasas.
Well, thank you for letting me speak. And I must say, you have always been such a welcoming presence. I was very scared when I first received this position, and you made me feel at home. You made me feel welcome. And I just really appreciate everything that you have done for both me, the students, and the district. So thank you so much.
I won't put you on the spot. Do you want to say anything?
Briefly. Very brief. Get to some student recognitions, but Willow and I will be talking with Assemblymember Gabriel real soon about vaccines for students. But thank you all. None of this happens, with one person. It's a total team. Starts off with my amazing wife of 21 years, Sharon Stepanowski. And this school board, is their hearts and souls are in it for the students and all the right reasons. And they were steadfast in being safe and getting kids back in classrooms and getting people together. And it's such a joy to be together tonight and celebrating and at football games and so much fun. So I can't thank the board enough. They really were a steady force through, much turbulence. And our city councils and our school boards, these are, leaders in the community who volunteer countless hours. To help our schools and help our cities, our four amazing cities. So personally, no one sees I get a little bit of a sense for the hours, certainly for the school board. I see all the hours for the school board and have a good sense for the city council. So thank you for stepping up and leading and providing so many, countless hours of service to our entire community. And it's the cities and schools that make all of this great. My team is amazing. I would tell you, I had a lot of sleepless nights. And I'm most proud that the staff and the students were safe. We did a vaccine mandate, as I'll try and shift away from emotions quickly. Our staff is 98.5% vaccinated. Our students who are eligible are 89% vaccinated, and we're shooting to have, no pun intended, another vaccine clinic right out there, Saturday, November 13th. For our staff and for our students who are 5 through 11 pending emergency use authorization by the FDA real soon. So we've ran over 6 clinics, over 4,000 vaccinated as a result, and our school stayed open. We closed 1 classroom over the last 20 months, and it was done safely. And I had lost a lot of sleep about that part, and this whole team, the school board and this team did also. So. But we've got some students to recognize, 16 students, so let's get back to the students. right. What's that? All right. So, council members are welcome to stay. Also, I know you have a busy schedule, so we appreciate going in either direction. Thank you so much. We have the greatest ever haul of National Merit semifinalists. So if I could have, let's have all 16 students come up here first. Let's come on down. Let's get you up here on the spotlight. And we'll have our principals, Doc McClay and Ms. Exner, come up. But a word about this. 1.5 million students take the PSAT. I've got a senior at Calabasas and a junior. My son's taking the PSAT on Saturday. If any of you have any tips, we'll pass those along to Sean. 1.5 million students took the PSAT. 34,000 advanced to commended status. Of the 34,000, 16,000 advanced to National Merit semifinalist status, which is 1/100th of a percentage of the students. So you are, ladies and gentlemen, are looking at 1/100th, the top 1/100th of percentage in the United States of America. And we have 8 from Calabasas and 8 from Agora, and we love it. By the way, Mr. Jeremy Wolf was here earlier. I think he just took off. He was a graduate of Agora. He is actually the founder for, where's our Chargers? He is at the time, he was a student leader who came up with the name Power Plant. So you have seen the founder of the Power Plant right here tonight. So principals are going to say a few words and introduce our students, but we are thrilled to have this amazingness in our presence.
I think I speak for Dr. McClay and myself and everyone in here. Congratulations. This is a huge accomplishment. Dr. Stepanowski said the stats that I had prepared for today, but you should be very proud. And I know this is just the starting point to the final recognition, but just we are so proud of you and just the amazing things that you have done at both Calabasas and Agora High School. Do you want to say anything? Oh, okay. And so my 8, if you want to step forward, wave, we would love that. Mallory Cooper. Melissa Eddy. Isabella Lozada. Joshua Peisner. Jacob Rossoff. Zachary Rossoff. Jackson Shapiro. And Ella Trevady.
And I have the distinct honor of recognizing our semifinalists, Tituan 4, Charles Kindle, Alyssa Klein, Josephine Pack, Sarah Sturgeon, Valerie Wilkie, Thomas Van Fleet, and Megan Thanislas. Ladies and gentlemen, you already are representing us incredibly well, and yourselves. And I couldn't be prouder of the 8 we have and the 8 Calabasas has. And I know the next round is applications again. So you guys are going to get into the process of applying, and I know folks have written letters, you're writing letters, and I wish you well in the next round. May you all be merit scholars.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back through staff board communication because we may well have some relevant, important things to hear. So I will go with our student board member first.
Madam President, members of the board, Agora High School and Calabasas have had a very successful last 2 weeks. At Agora, we had our first community blood drive for the year, where we gathered over 25 units of blood. Yesterday, we started our Pennies for Patients drive to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Agora also had their Club Rush, where many students joined clubs that they were interested in and had a passion for. Agora also had their big Canaan Bowl on Friday, and Agora won the big game against Oak Park. At Calabasas, in response to a negative internet trend, CHS Student Government is implementing a new idea called Selfie with a Teacher, where students will send in selfies with their favorite staff member, and the ASB Instagram will repost it. CHS has also been participating in Hispanic Heritage Month, and on Friday the 15th, a mariachi band will be at school during lunch. Following the success of our Something Yellow game at Calabasas, CHS donated $700 for the Something Yellow campaign. At both schools, the freshman class finished up their election, and now we have the freshman representatives from both schools. That is all for now, and both schools are doing fabulously. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stein.
Thank you. I have not much to add except to say that Mrs. Bergstrom is starting to set up school visits. I know Dr. Videra and I are going, we're on the Wellness and Safety Committee. We're going to be going out looking at ruler and elementary school and counseling and intervention specialists and new VAPAS specialists at elementary. So we're really excited about that. So we're going to be busy in the next few weeks. And Mrs. Cutbill and I are this week going to Agora High on Thursday. So we're going to be busy and have a lot to report back soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Videra.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on what Ms. Stein said, part of the reason for our visits are to see really how the implementation of our strategic plan is going and to see all the great work of our teachers and staff. So I have a lot to report soon.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mingus.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Melissa Foster. The reason that I am zooming into this meeting is because I was exposed to COVID far away from an LVUSD campus. And out of an abundance of caution and following scientific protocols, we decided it was best if I zoomed in for this meeting. Prior to my exposure, Mrs. Cutbill and I were part of the city schools meeting with Agora Hills and Westlake Village. And it's exciting to see how the schools, the cities are trying to get back to their city celebration. Reyes Adobe Day took place earlier this month, and coming up on October 16th, the city of Westlake Village is going to have their city celebration again, and Agora High School Jazz Band, the Blue Group, and Lindero Canyon Middle School's Jazz Band will be performing there if people are interested in going. Also, Council Member Linda Northrup talked about how she's been working with the director at Agora High School, David Krasner, and they're going to be putting on in November Our Town with a little bit of a twist to it. And Linda Northrup is also an alum of Agora High School. So coming up before our next board meeting is the foundation is trying to have their carnival again, and it's going to be at the Wizen Center. And if you go to the foundation on lvs.org, thefoundationlvs.org, you can buy tickets to it in advance. And it's October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in the Wizen Center parking lot.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lawrence.
First, I'd like to thank you, Ms. Cutbill, for really all the behind-the-scenes organization for Dan's award, both with the county. I know they're not the easiest to coordinate with, when they have their rules and they laid it out for us, but you made it seamless, and it was just, I think it was such a wonderful day. If you haven't seen the email they sent out today, it was a great picture of confetti cannon shooting across, and you just really captured the great moment. So thank you for leading us on that. I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with some of our city leaders. I attended the Hidden Hills Fiesta, spent some time talking to the mayor and some of the council members there. Always good to talk to some of our leaders in our local cities and kind of get a feel for some of their concerns and where they're coming at things. Also was able to join Ms. Cutbill for the 30th anniversary. Hard to believe it's been 30 anniversary of, and I think James has been there for almost all of them. State of the City for Calabasas. James gave a really nice presentation and recognized the great work of the partnership with the school district in his presentation. Lastly, I did want to thank the foundation. I was able to attend the comedy night. It was a great evening, a full house. They sold every ticket to support our schools, and it was just great to see that they're doing the big things like the carnival, but they're also constantly looking for these little opportunities to both engage, raise a little bit of money, but more than anything else, bring a sense of community together, and it's very much appreciated in this time to have that group out there constantly working for our school districts.
Thank you very much. I'll forego comments. Dr. Stepp, over to you.
Madam President, members of the board, just a few comments. We celebrated 2 employees of the year. First up was Jean Sutherland. She's been 15 years campus supervisor, PE specialist at Bay Laurel. Flexible, adaptable, tons of energy. She is a force for good. She's very hard to see in the photo there. I think she's just below Dr. Gleason's pom-pom, I think. And next one is Miss Dana Dixon. Dana Dixon's been at AU Wright for 26 years, brilliantly supporting our students' social emotional well-being. She's focused on inclusion, equity, kindness. Most notable for Miss Dixon was during the pandemic. She started having volunteer hikes to get kids together and outside and safely. And the list for the participating would go up on Friday and be filled within 60 seconds every time. So she had about 30 or so students every time. That was a blast. We don't have our staff development day this year, but we are going to bring them to the school board meeting on Tuesday, November 9th, which will be in our Performing Arts Education Center, where we'll be recognizing our longevity of our employees and our 2 employees of the year. Very exciting. Next slide, Mr. Klein. We have expanded our testing, and we just want to make sure we get that good word out there to everybody. 3 testing dates, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Agora, 5:30 to 6:45. Calabasas, same on Wednesdays, and then district office right out behind these windows, behind Dr. Seifried from 4 to 6. There's a link there. It's students, families, staff are all welcome to take advantage of that, and they do have, they now have a family notification in place as well, because I know that some folks need this to attend events and that sort of stuff.
I'm just curious, are you seeing couple every day, or consistent number, or what's been have we had some days with none? What's the?
The district office has been the lightest. Has anyone on the team seen numbers? I think our high schools are the biggest because you've got athletes that must test. And for example, Calabasas has homecoming coming up, and either vaccinated status or a clear test on the Wednesday before homecoming are requirements for that. So that'll be a spike. Certainly people can test anywhere they want. This is just one of many options. So I would say we're probably seeing 300 a week at the 2 high schools combined. The district office, probably 50 at this point.
And anybody can come to the district office, right? Any parent, anybody in the community?
Yep, staff, students, families.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I think that's it for me. Mr. Klein, is that right? All right, Dr. Finneran.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, just wanted to highlight one of our professional development opportunities that occurred last week. We have a partnership with Cal Berkeley, their History Social Studies project, and just 2 wonderful consultants that we're working with to support our secondary social studies and history teachers. We also invited 4th and 5th grade teachers as well, to modernize and bring to the present history and social studies curriculum. And so there are so many things that change regularly, and one of those things is our current daily lived experience, so especially over the last few years. And so that's something that these consultants are working with our history and social studies teachers to just bring what is happening in the present into the classrooms appropriately, respectfully, with all perspectives. Thank you.
Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, just want to share, we have professional development opportunities, of course, for classified and certificated staff, but just also want to highlight we have it for management and leadership as well. And so we have, as part of our series, we have Dr. Cyphers and Ms. Chambers, as well as in a collaboration with Mr. McGugan at Oak Park, we're going to be doing a personnel institute for a range of leaders in our area, including our administrators, and those happen once a month, and that's coming up this Thursday.
Mr. Klein.
Madam President, members of the board, last week I shared that we were starting to get our tech teams back together, and I'm pleased to report that the Lindera Canyon tech team has actually put together a very robust website. I don't have it ready for you to show just yet, but it does have video and help and all kinds of great things for the media centers. They've been actually working with the media center coordinators at all of our school sites to make sure that every school site knows about it, and getting a lot of help and support from the media center coordinators. So it's been a nice experience for our coordinators to actually work with kids on a regular basis and build some real great resources for the rest of the school. So we're really thrilled with that. And I look forward to showing it to you in the near future.
Ms. Falk?
Madam President, members of the board, this summer, a representative from Moby Max, which is a math intervention strategy, contacted me. They had received a grant. They wanted us to be a pilot district where that they would give special education teachers a laptop and free subscriptions for all of the students. So it is a K through 8 program, so we are doing that. In addition, we are doing our secondary mod severe programs. And so the data is starting to roll in, and I'm privy to it, and so far, students are making progress, and people are very excited, so it looks like, I'll present it later at a board meeting, the progress, but we are a pilot district, and so far, things are going great.
Great. God, those are nice calls to get. Yeah, wow.
Ms. Chambers?
Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to share that we sent out our second LV Connects newsletter and video highlighting some of our very own Mariposa certificated and classified staff as well as our own students. It was great to hear about their experiences both in and out of the classroom. We'll be doing that monthly.
Ms. Kins?
Madam President, members of the board, tonight I'd like to share with you that our professional development is in full swing, and you've heard that from others here as well. We have full classes signed up of staff who are signed up for the Ruler program, which is recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating your emotions. Very popular. And we also have 7 Center for Collaborative Classroom, which is our literacy program in elementary. 7 sessions. And some of those are for new teachers, new to a grade, but also those who have been teaching that grade level for a while to deepen their implementation. Then very exciting, on November 2nd, Round Meadow Elementary will be visited by the Rams during their Holidays for Heroes program as part of their Salute to Service Week. So they are going to partner with Round Meadow to personalize holiday cards and appreciation for military members and veterans. They will also be visited by the Rampage cheerleaders and a Rams player.
Ms. Kimmel?
Madam President, members of the board, last week I had the opportunity to meet with our Measure E Oversight Committee. I just wanted to give a little recognition to our Oversight Committee members that meet a couple times a year and give us the opportunity to share our financial picture and help us provide the transparency that we strive for with our community. And they're always a great group to meet with, and they ask really pertinent questions and really help us be accountable to the community.
Dr. Cyphers?
Madam President, members of the board, this year we've expanded our classified professional development offerings. Kudos to Ms. Chambers and our classified leadership team for putting those together. Had the pleasure of over the last 4 weeks of teaching a course on bringing joy to the playground with our classified employees. We talked about building positive moments for students, inclusivity, and overall making the playground experience fun for students as we come out of the pandemic. It was the highlight of my last couple weeks, I would say. I want to give a big shout out to all the folks that attended and thank all of our classified staff for all that they do for students every day.
That concludes staff communication.
Thank you very much. Okay, I lost my, moving on to consent A.
I'll move to approve consent A.
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Student board member?
Aye.
Board?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Consent B.
I move to approve consent B.
I'll second.
Thank you. Board only vote. Board?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Action items, approval of provisional internship permit credential for preliminary education specialists.
One of our favorite STIPs and PIPs, Dr. Cyphers.
Madam President, members of the board, as we all know, there continues to be a critical shortage of special education teachers in the state of California. In the past, the district has used this option to hire teachers to fill the vacancies. This particular provisional intern permit is needed for the 2021-22 school year to fill a position at AC Stell Middle School. The employee is actually one of our own for the last 16 years. She's an instructional specialist in behavior, and staff is seeking approval for her provisional intern permit.
Any questions? No? Seems straightforward. Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Student board member?
Aye.
Board?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Moving on. Items for information. Special education program update.
So excited to bring this one to the board tonight and shine a spotlight on something I'm personally most proud of, and I know the board shares that as well, and that's the services and support we provide our special students with special needs. They are our most vulnerable and at risk, and they and Ms. Falk led us in the pandemic, the first coming back with 200 of our students with special needs just about a year ago to the day. And their staff, and they did it well, and they did it successfully, and then most importantly, they did it safely. They were sort of the first troops on Normandy Beach for us, and they were led by Ms. Falk, who has been in Las Virgenes for 127 years.
It feels like that. Does that count?
I'm right there with you. So we want to share some data and some updates, and of course, let Ms. Falk present to the board, and of course, listening to her as a education in all times, but she has dramatically improved the support we provide our students, and at the same time, reduced some of the costs associated with legal fees, which means more money for program and support and staff. Ms. Falk.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Stepanovsky. Madam President, members of the board, tonight I'm going to present a brief overview of special education in Las Virgenes and give you some idea about how we compare with the state of California as a whole. So as always, the focus is always on students. We're very student-centered, as all educators are. Students come first and foremost in everything that we do. So some idea about special education and how you qualify. There's 14 eligibility categories in special education, and they're set forth by the federal law. Statewide, approximately close to 800,000 students are identified as students with disabilities who are served under IDEA, which means through their IEP. Roughly 13% of the students in the state of California in public schools are considered students with disabilities. Las Virgenes, we are below that. We serve approximately 1,100 students we have over the last 2 years, which puts us right around 11% of students being identified as special education. So we are below the state average. The target is always 10%. Very few districts ever hit that 10%, so 11% is a very good number. And so how do we determine eligibility? By assessments. And you can see in 1920, we did 677 assessments, which is a low number because remember, March through June, we weren't doing any assessments because we were closed down.
Right.
Last year, we did 887 assessments. This year, so far, we have done 221 assessments. So we are far above where we were the last 2 years. We're having a lot of parents request assessments. Not every student who we assess obviously qualifies for special ed. But we do need to assess every student to determine eligibility. And just to give you an idea, each assessment is about 10 staff hours per student.
I was going to ask, okay. So, yeah, you're.
Ms. Falk, like you said, 1920 was not a typical school year. Do you have any idea how many assessments were done the year prior, which was a typical year?
We range between 8 and 850.
Oh, okay.
Is what we
Okay.
range between.
Okay, thank you.
And that bump that we're seeing, everybody's seeing across the state in
Oh,
terms of
okay.
parents requesting assessments due to potential learning loss.
Okay.
So just some general statistics from the state of California. About 1 in 8 students receive special education in the year 17-18, which is the last time the state really released any numbers. Like I said, roughly 13%. But the big number they look at is disproportionality. And if you remember earlier last year, I said that we were not a district found to be out in disproportionality. And so what does that mean? It means that they're looking at populations such as African American students, such as low socioeconomic, such as students identified as Hispanic. And they're looking at, are you overserving those populations based upon the number of students you have in your district? If you are, you're found out of disproportionality. If you're found out of disproportionality for 3 years in a row, you're in what the state calls significant disproportionality, which means 50% of your funding from IDEA has to go toward resolving disproportionality. So the state takes it very serious. So where are we in Las Virgenes in that? So basically, that's the percentage
Sorry,
of students.
real quick before you jump, 'cause the last line of that was the most startling to me about autism. So I'm just curious if you could shed some light on, is it because, are you getting to it later, or?
I
Okay,
am,
great,
yeah.
okay.
If I don't, remind, but
Speaker,
it's
and I
an
got to the
excellent.
bottom, it's like, oh my goodness,
It is.
that's a massive change.
It is a massive change. So roughly, you can see that we are not, at this time, currently overserving any of our targeted populations, which is great, which goes to the interventions that we have in place. And general ed, so that we are not overserving populations that tend to be overserved throughout the state.
Let me just get to the concept of overserving. I feel like students present how they present. And I'm struggling with the idea that there should be a target here. Can you just help me with that?
So
Like-
what the state is looking at is roughly the percentage that you have of these targeted populations are roughly the percentage that you should be serving, in the sense that if you have 1% of students who are low socioeconomic, and you're serving 1% of those populations, basically what you're saying is every one of those kids is being served through special education. So what they're looking at started with discipline. For example, African-American students were 6% of the population in the state of California public schools. 8% of them were being suspended, of all the total of students being suspended. So they're looking at, within a district, your targeted populations, your African-American, your low socioeconomic, your Hispanic, and they're looking at your overall percentage, and then from that overall percentage, are you serving a disproportionate amount in special education? Meaning that you're not doing targeted interventions, that your targeted intervention is these kids need to go to special education.
So it's
That's
another
what
way
they're
of saying
looking
the state's worried about districts that are over-identifying or pushing too many students into special.
Right, that's what I'm, okay. I just want to be.
And you
that I was
are right in
understanding
the
that.
sense that,
Somehow an easier way to wash our hands of just, rather than fixing, maybe we need a better math program, not our district, but like a better math program.
yes, and you're right, that if they meet eligibility, they meet eligibility. But they're also looking at these numbers that I have here, and how are you serving these kids, and how are you identifying, which comes to what Dallas says. About 15% of students identified in special education are under the eligibility of autism. The last 2 years in Las Virgenes, we are at 18%. At one point, we had the highest percentage in the state of students with autism. The rest of our numbers are relatively the same throughout. We haven't changed much, except our autism population has increased. And one of the reasons for that is it's kind of, if you build it, they will come, in the sense that we are known throughout the state. I mean, I get calls from Israel, China, Japan, asking about our social communication program, our Buttercup program, how we serve students with autism.
So it draws.
It draws.
It draws.
It does.
Can you talk us through the other categories,
Can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
It's a blessing and a curse, right? Because it draws, but doesn't it cost, how much does that program cost per student versus what we get for that?
So it doesn't cost us any additional money than serving special education students in general.
But I mean, special education in general is still largely unfunded mandate by the federal government, where they're
It's
requiring a
40%
level
right
above
now.
and beyond the, whatever we get. What is that? I'm just curious.
We get 40%. We get funded at 40%.
So 60% of the additional costs that were put on us by the feds, we're having to,
Mm-hmm.
so it's great that we're taking care of our community, but kind of being a beacon where people are moving here because of this is a budget impact.
Yes, but I always look at it this way, is like, you want to give kids with disabilities the best opportunity they
100%,
can have to
yeah.
be successful, and I think we do a fabulous job of that. I know we do. And we're not so far out of the range of the state. We're at 3% higher. So the cost is, I think, yes, it costs more, but the benefit of what we're doing for these students, I think, far outweighs that.
Can I go back to my autism question that I had? So the slide before showed that autism went from, I think it was 1 in 600 to 1 in 50. Is that just because we're testing for it now, 30 years later, more or 20 years later more effectively? I mean, that's just such a huge increase.
It is.
You
I think
there's
it's
much greater
twofold.
awareness of what
Yeah.
autism is, and that it's a spectrum, and so more kids can qualify. It's out there, not just in education, but even in pediatrics.
Yeah, I think Dr. Vadera is right. There is much more awareness of that. The state opened it up a little bit broader a couple of years ago when they included autism spectrum. They have since reduced that back down to autism. So I suspect in a couple of years, the eligibility under autism will start to drop again. But it ebbs and flows, like SLD, specific learning disability, used to be by far 40%. That's kind of bottomed out as we're identifying more kids who have speech and language deficits, kids who have other health impairments. So it kind of ebbs and flows. But our numbers have been pretty consistent over the last 5 years in terms of the eligibility criteria and how we're qualifying kids under eligibility.
And years ago, we were spending money losing lawsuits because we did not have the programs, and the value was build the programs, like you said, to serve our students well and not spend money on students and not on lawyers.
Absolutely. And not on county schools, and not on
Exactly.
non-public schools, and
Right.
not on residentials.
Can I ask you a question on a slide back, or an idea that was back there? So when you say that statewide and in our district, we're seeing more parents requesting testing and IEP, this learning loss, so, and you're seeing that here. So are more students qualifying?
Unknown. We're right in the middle of that right now.
Okay.
So the data is not clear at this point. You still have to meet the criteria set up by the eligibility. So my guess would be we're probably not going to see a dramatic increase in students qualifying, but we are going to see an increase in the number of assessments that we're doing.
And so, meaning that parents want assessments for students, are you also looking in areas and looking at grades and things like that? Because learning loss doesn't necessarily mean that they qualify for special ed. But if there's learning loss and kids are struggling because of the pandemic, are you taking that a step further and trying to address that? With, so that those holes with students can be filled
Right. So
with other things than special ed.
Right, so the first criteria would be to rule out that the student has a disability. So that would be, and we have, quantifiable data for that. There's no wiggle room in that. The second part is what I've been doing and what Dr. Gleason and I have been doing, and that is working on the gen ed piece to address some of that learning loss and what programmatic pieces are we going to put in place for students who don't technically have a disability, but may have some learning loss in reading, math, writing, whatever the areas. I mean, generally, a lot of kids in the state of California and across the nation
Right.
have some learning loss because we
Right.
were out of school for such a long period of time.
Right. But we have to catch them up. Thank you.
And just a breakdown of how we're serving kids in special ed. Preschool, we had 50 last year, we have 43 this year. Elementary school is the biggest jump. You can see, and this is in students qualifying for special education. So in 2021, we had 410. We're now serving 447 students. And middle school dropped, high school dropped in terms of students we're seeing with students with disabilities. And then our non-public has pretty much stayed the same. Our residentials, I'm happy to report, we're down to 3 currently, and we have 2 more coming home. So I anticipate in the coming months we'll have 1 residential student. Although we have some residential assessments coming up, so you never know. Some idea of the staffing, we have 71 special ed teachers, we have 23 speech pathologists and speech pathologist assistants. We have 6 occupational therapists with certified occupational assistants. APE teachers plus the assistant, we have 3. We have 1 physical therapist. We have 1 mobility specialist. We have 15 school psychologists. We have 1 DHH person with an assistant.
Is that 1 psychologist per site? Sorry.
It is 1 psychologist per site and 1 that floats.
1 that floats. Okay.
For extra assessments. We have 4 nurses, a vision specialist, 11 behaviorists, and right now, we currently have 140 paraeducators. So in total, right now, we have 278 certificated and classified employees serving students with disabilities.
And how does that compare to prior years, or are we short-staffed anywhere?
Well, we're always looking for more paraeducators, so that's a constant. But we haven't changed our staffing too much over the last few years in terms of adding students and having to add staff. It's been pretty consistent.
Well, I just meant, are we short-staffed? So
We
at
are.
278, okay, so we're staffed?
Except for paraeducators,
Right,
we are
okay.
staffed.
Are you, you spend a lot of time looking at other school districts and counties and at the state. I'm not sure if I'm struck by it or if it's just kind of a number, but 27% of our staff are focused on 10% of our kids. Is that about the right? Is that the ratio it usually takes? 1 in 4 staff are looking after 1 in 10 kids.
I think it depends on the delivery model of the district. For example, Oak Park is a full inclusion district, so they push all of their kids in general ed. So they have a little bit lower staff ratio. We're much lower than Conejo. We're much lower than SEMI. We're much lower than like
When you say
Oxford.
lower, you mean our,
Our ratio.
so they have more staff to students with needs than we do.
That's correct.
And this district can choose if they want that model to push the kids into general education classes versus have specialized programs for them?
Federal law says you have to offer the continuum of services. So we have chosen to follow that mandate. Oak Park does that up until high school. High school is a full inclusion model. So sometimes, if no parent challenges that, but we are following all federal mandates in terms of, we have some students who are fully included, we have some students who are not able to be, and we meet the student where they are and educate them based on their own unique needs.
That's great. And then my last question on staffing is, what percentage of the staff are the ones that are focusing on the kids post-graduation from high school? Because we have a mandate till they're like 20, is that right?
22.
22, where we provide, so how many are in that program, and what does that look like? And maybe if you could spend a minute on, I've always wondered, since we're having the time, like, who funds that?
So federal law says 21, the state of California says 22. So we serve students up to age 22, and we're funded. We can collect ADA on all those
We can.
kids.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we currently have 1 teacher and 5 paraeducators working in a class, and we currently have 18 to 22-year-old students in the program.
And that's the program that we've all visited, where we see the apartment we built out and the life skills and those amazing things that we're doing to help these folks. That's such an awesome program.
It is, it really is.
And I think it's important to note, too, that, the need for the paraeducators really depends on the disability, and that you need the staffing ratio. If you have kids that are more severe, or you need more, staff in the room to, teach the kids and make sure that it's an effective program,
Right,
which
so-
is what I saw during the summer, which I really liked, because you need that, because those kids need individual attention so that they can, progress.
Right, so staffing is based on a student's IEP, and an IEP team would determine whether or not additional adult support was needed. So some classrooms have more, some classrooms have less, depending on the needs of the children in that classroom.
Just another, sorry for all the questions, but I'm just curious about this. On the staffing, is this counting a full head count for like a Buttercup teacher who is really half their time is spent in a class with typical learners? Is that in this 278? So is it?
If they're ECE teachers, no. If there are special ed teachers at Buttercup, yes.
So like half, but I mean, half the class has students with special needs typically. So that teacher who is teaching that class, are we counting that head count in this 278?
So if we have an intensive class that's 100% special education students at Buttercup. We have 50-50 classes which are taught by special education teachers. They are in this count. We have ECE teachers who teach gen ed with some of our more mild speech and language students. They are not included in this count.
And
Thanks.
just to clarify, those teachers that are in the 50-50 classes, the other 50% of typical students are there to model for the special
100%.
ed students, so it's all part of the same program.
It seems like if that's the case, this is even a smaller number because those teachers are also teaching typical learners. And so they're it's even smaller than it looks here. That's great.
I have a quick question about the staffing. I'm just curious with the physical therapist, mobility specialist, and the vision specialist, where that's just one person, are they like rotating through all 14 campuses
That's correct.
regularly, or?
Well, we don't have students on all 14 campuses that require that service. If we did, the answer would be yes. So they're traveling to every campus who has a student whose IEP calls for that service.
Has there been any, I know there's a real value in it being as typical a learning environment as possible and not having it feel like this is the campus for students that have special needs. But has there been a thought that like creating a center of excellence at one middle school or a center of excellence at one high school and really building out that capability there? Or does that not jive with kind of because I know we're doing it at both high schools and we have it at all the middle schools, but I'm just curious the thought about if we focus the resources and created one, we're not that huge a community, so the commute between wouldn't be too burdensome if we were able to make something really the next level. Or have we thought through that, or I'm just curious to your thoughts on.
So federal law requires the students be educated at their home school as best as possible. If they cannot be, the district is required to transport them to a program where they can be educated. And it's always, I think, best practice to educate students with the peers that they live with in their community, so they can bond those friendships and outside of school, have play dates and things like that. There's a real value, besides the federal law mandate, to having kids at their home school and getting that peer interaction with their neighbors.
That's great. Thank you.
And saying that, isn't our social comm program, isn't that at one elementary, then they go to one middle and one high school? So programmatically, we have done that.
Yeah, we have our.
With certain programs.
That's right. And just kind of to give you a heads up about some of the specialized programs that we have developed in the district to kind of meet the needs of the students and to keep them within the school district. We have our social comm program at Willow, at Lindero, and at Agora High School. We have our post-secondary program at Agora High School for students who are earning a certificate of completion, and that goes through age 22. We have a behavior class at Willow Elementary. We have our functional, academic, and social skills program at all 3 middle schools. And we have a community-based instruction at both high schools who serve our more mod-severe population. We have an enhanced day program at AC Stell Middle School and at Calabasas High School, which serves our students who have more intensive social emotional needs. We have Buttercup. We have a behavior team that travels around the district serving students who have behavioral needs within special education. I can't see what that says.
New teacher
We have our new teacher coaches this year for the first time. All of our new teachers, and we have staff, we have 17 new staff members in special education, have a veteran teacher or staff member as a coach, which has been really supportive, and I thank Dr. Gleason for that.
That's fantastic.
And we also have teacher mentors who are also working. So our teachers in general, our new teachers, are getting a tremendous amount of support, because 2 things we know about special education teachers: not only are they in short supply, but it is a high burnout. It is a high burnout profession. So if you put a lot of support in at the beginning, you have not only have really highly trained teachers, you also have teachers who stay for a long time. And I felt that way, which is why I'm still here 128 years later, as Dr. Dan said.
What happens at 22? Is there a handoff to like the community college system, or is the government's mindset is that we're done? Not our mindset, but the federal and state says you're done at that point for educational services. Then you go into a different type of social service net. But I'm just curious, is there a community college version of what we have where they hand off and they are able to continue to grow and build for a couple years?
So because our students in our post-secondary class are students with more moderate to severe disabilities, community college is usually not an option unless they're taking like a yoga class, or regional center will support them and the families if the families choose to access that. There are adult day programs for families who are able to access those. There are group homes. Some of our families have accessed that, which all happen to be in LA, not in any of our cities. There's Social Security income, which can support some of these kids. But the general consensus I have heard from day one is when they leave the public school system, where there's a lot of support and a lot of synergy in helping this child, dissipates once they graduate.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everyone here on the board has seen it, but it's worth going out, contacting Ms. Falk and going out and seeing. It's a beautiful program. Thank you.
I just remember, I think I shared before, but I remember being so touched when I saw during COVID, the teacher leading a class with some kids who were in Zoom and some kids who were in class, and just thinking, I don't know, there's no preparation or planning for that, but to do it with the grace and like I was stunned. I shouldn't have been stunned because I should have expected it, but it was still, it was amazing to see. So clearly, this mix that you built here, that support and the training is really paying off.
We have some pretty remarkable special education staff members in Las Virgenes. So in terms of training, we have developed a lot of in-house trainings in consultation with renowned specialists. We have worked with Dr. Mitch Taubman to develop our ABA programs, who is known worldwide. We train all of our paraeducators and all of our special ed teachers in ABA, and surrounding districts pay for their staff to come to our ABA trainings. We have content area trainings where we're working with special education teachers on specific content areas. We go to legal workshops so that our staff is up to date on all the latest rulings and legal pitfalls, so to speak. And we also have a new teacher boot camp where all of our new teachers meet with our program coordinators, and we do monthly trainings to help support them so that in the day-to-day, when they have issues. We also, which I didn't put on there, have Tuesday afternoon office hours, virtual office hours, where the admin team is on from 3 to 3:45, and any special education teacher, staff member can log on and problem solve with the admin team. And then here's a special ed admin team. Brandy Rosen is the elementary coordinator. Kristen Stein is the secondary. Val Lothian is the preschool. We also attend as a special ed admin team local and state conferences to keep up to date. Brandy and myself have presented every year at the AXA convention for probably the last 10 years, along with our attorney Wes Parsons on our programmatic pieces that we have set up in Las Virgenes. We have weekly admin team meetings every Monday to try and keep abreast of compliance issues. And we also, like I said, attend legal workshops to ensure best practices are implemented. Some exciting new things. The district, as you know, recently received state monies to continue and develop innovative programs. We're in the process right now of developing a plan. Dr. Gleason and I have been meeting to write some proposals up. My plan is due in the state in November, so I will be submitting that. We recently, like I said, we recently began a pilot program through MobiMax where they gave interested teachers iPads and free student subscriptions. And I'm getting daily updates from MobiMax about teachers and student progress, and it's been nice to see that.
It's great.
And that's it. That's the state of special ed in Las Virgenes. I am a proud representative of special education. The highlight of my day is when I can get out of my office and walk into a classroom and see the great things that are going on. And it's good to remember that we do lots of great things in special education in Las Virgenes.
I really appreciate all this information. It's great that we don't have a lot of action items, that we can take the time to kind of get this great overview from you. We really value what you do for our kids. So thank you. Any questions? Or
Thank you. Ms. Funk, thank you so much for all you do. I mean, honestly, the highlight of my day is getting out into classrooms as well. It's magical. And thank you for pouring your heart and soul. This is a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
One other piece about the transition program, though. I know we had employment opportunities. I think we brought like 12 or 14 or 15 different local employers. Are our students, our 18 or so students in the transition program, are they working, or is that not able to happen yet?
So that's through a collaboration contract with the Department of Rehabilitation, which last year we didn't have permission to work. This year we have started working, and we have our first students at their job sites. And we have about 56 students in the transition program, and then our post-secondary students work through our workability grant. So we have 2 grants that fund students working. Transition funds the high school kids who want to work, who are in the transition program through Department of Rehab, and then workability funds our post-secondary kids who work. Thank you for reminding me of that.
thank you. Okay, moving on. Dr. Dr. Gleason is going to tell us about all the wonderful, our grant guru.
Wonderful.
Show me the money.
As a way of introduction, I remember we went through quite a spell where we did not get grants here.
It was a little dry.
In the great land of Las Virgenes. I remember Joe Nardo and I getting very excited when we hit the jackpot with $500,000 on a CTE grant. So we were busy high-fiving, and Dr. Gleason comes along and brings in millions of dollars in grants. So tremendous asset. This is phenomenal to have this level of success. I mean, we had interviewed several different grant writers.
Yes.
And some of them we brought in, and the foundation brought in, and they had zero success. And, Joe and I.
And we had zero success.
We had zero success, so thrilled to be sharing this success story with Dr. Gleason. I know he's worked hard with Dr. Finneran and Ms. Kimmel as well, so appreciate them and their work on this. Dr. Gleason.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, hard to follow Angie Falk.
Yeah.
It was a tremendous presentation. Just want to share with you where we are with our grants. So these grants, the administration of them is monitored by two board committees, as everyone up here knows, the Pathways Committee largely and the Finance Committee. And they are, as Dr. Stepp said, these are a resurging phenomena as the state looks to award funding based on interest, opt-in, and planning. So this slide represents our current grants. So we currently receive about $400,000 annually for career technical education. For the public watching, this allows us to continue our career technical education programs, robust sports medicine, arts, media, and entertainment, culinary, theater programs. Those are all supported in their sustenance through that grant. Second is the two-pay grant, which we received about a year and a half ago, gives us annually close to $200,000, and this helps fund the counseling center and continue on with that model. And so what's really exciting is the counseling center has been grant funded for the last 4 years and now has become kind of a staple and foundation of so much of what we do. They've been such an asset to us as we've navigated the return to school. Extended learning opportunities in ESSER 2 and 3. So we opted into these. These are a big part of our strategic plan. Just worth noting, what they've done for kids. There are 3 additional days on the school year this year because of this. Expanded professional development, paraeducators, if we can find them, class size reduction in targeted areas. The elementary counseling expansion has just been absolutely tremendous. The addition of wellness counseling at the high schools was a definite need. You heard Ms. Falk talk about teacher coaching and the impact. Our induction coaches are now spending twice a week in every new teacher's classroom, providing model lessons, providing support. It is a game changer. And that funding is going through 2024. Summer school, one of the things we budgeted in our strategic plan last year, we budgeted summer school last year, but it was April. So we do have in our budget the opportunity to look at summer school this year and see how we want to structure that through those funds. And then our local solution special education grants. So Ms. Falk, her team, myself, we've been working on writing and burning the midnight oil on developing a special education teacher credentialing program, which we hope to submit in mid-December to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing and launch the first in a state school district SPED teacher credentialing program, which, as evidenced by the last slide, to have teachers grow in an environment that Ms. Falk and her team have built is a benefit not only to LVUSD but to this area.
If all goes to plan on that, when would the first cohort start?
Fall 22, so we would next year be working with our first cohort. And this grant would, what's a little uncanny is this grant would provide scholarships for folks to go through our program, and it would be a win-win-win all the way around. And I say would, but it will. So it's exciting to turn our would into will. So on the horizon, Ms. Falk mentioned that there are some learning recovery funds for special education. And really, Ms. Falk has taken a creative look at that through what can we do on the pre-referral side to support students, especially as we come out of the pandemic. She and her team have some great ideas, which we'll be working with Pathways and Finance on. That grant does not need to go to the board for approval, but we'll be working with committees for guidance as we did with Pathways last time. There's an A through G completion improvement grant that's coming down, and where I see that one supporting, there's no details, but it should be on the horizon. How it works is Ms. Kimmel and I find in our inbox one day that it's been released and a plan needs to be developed. So when it does, since this is a targeted A through G, this could be secondary intervention money. So as we think about, I know Dr. Finner and Ms. Kinson, that services team has been working on data study sessions. So as we look at that data and think about interventions, these two grants can be targeted there. We're, of course, working, Ms. Miller's in the background, in the back of the room, so we'll be working with LVEA and LVCA as we coordinate the use of the funds, especially with this next grant, which is the final slide, which is, oh, I'm in charge. I was like, Mr. Klein, doing the...
Confidence is waning.
Yes, I don't blame you. So it's the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. So this can be used for 10 areas. Professional development is the core, coaching, credentialing, ongoing support. The funding's through 2026. We anticipate, I believe, about $2.5 million to be spent between now and then. So in terms of the how, this is where we'll be working with LVEA, LVCA, of course, finance and pathways. And one of the things we'll have to determine, since our district is one that builds professional development into the academic calendar, if those funds can be used there to support teachers in the general fund, or if it's a supplemental grant. And when we have that clarity, we'll work with the board to bring a plan. All this is exciting, though. Categorical money can be frustrating at times because it's restricted, but then at times, especially post-pandemic, restricted use is supportive of real targeted efforts, and I'm excited about our collaborative work ahead. So with that, that is the 5-minute overview of a lot of exciting work that everyone up here has worked so hard on, along with our staff.
I can't thank you enough. As the constraints on our funding increase and the constraints increase, the funding decreases. These are the things that make a difference. And for a lot of times, not just new or added programs, but for things that I think of should be our bread and butter, like a counseling center, the things that I think are core to our mission in serving our students. So I'm just blown away by all that we have on the table and all that you've achieved in this area. So thank you very much to you and everyone in Ed Services who works on these.
What percentage of our grants would you say are state versus federal funds?
That's a Ms. Kimmel question, because I'm thrown by the latest federal grants. So as we look back, all the grants that are in the strategic plan that I referenced, those are federal. With the exception, I think, is the AB 86 is the state. And then all the competitive grants we've won and have been awarded have been state grants.
Are there, we had this conversation years ago when we were advocating, or at least some of us were advocating for a grant specialist to come and help. And I think one of the things we've discovered is you need to have a senior person who understands the actual academics and education philosophy behind it to be successful. Now that we've been this successful, do you think that is there value in thinking about bringing in another person to work with you to amplify that still under your guidance? It's not going to say, can we do more? Is there more that we could do? Is there money left on the table that just aren't hours in the day and not enough Ryan Gleason time to go get it in your mind? Or are we kind of batting at our weight and we should be happy?
Right now, post-COVID, a lot of grants have, there isn't the plethora that there were.
Right.
So they're much more targeted and specific.
Yeah.
Certainly, there are federal grants we don't swing at, or ones we've had to miss because we just have not had the time or the bandwidth. I think, one thing that this board has been so great about is making sure if we apply for a grant, we also make sure we have the infrastructure to sustain the programs. And so that's also a limiting factor that we consider. With the post-COVID stimulus in so many of these areas, and with Center edX growing, I'd say we're at a pretty good sweet spot, with the exception of if there was money for CTE, mental health, or academic intervention, like Ms. Falk had mentioned. Those are areas where we have the infrastructure to implement.
And then,
No, go ahead.
In all successes, there are things we learned that didn't work so well. And I'm just curious, especially when you're working with categorical funding, where you have to create a program that maybe we wouldn't have created without the funding. And are there things that we learned from this that we wouldn't do again as we go forward, that we would take away and say, that was a good learning experience? It didn't cost our community anything, it was funded, so we tried it. and, next time we'll do it differently?
Yes. So there are a lot of grants we've received, but there's also a lot of grants we haven't. So part of it's at bats. I'd say there's two that come to mind. One is the Prop 56 tobacco grant. So the implementation of that was challenging because they wanted enforcement with the Department of Justice. And we were kind of pushing the boundaries of that with the counseling center. But the great thing that came out of that was with the sting operations and the understanding and it was outside of our normal scope. We learned a lot and we built the counseling center. So going through it, I was wondering at times if this was worth it. In hindsight, it was worth it. The second is our special education scholarship grant. Right now, we're a pass-through of the funding to universities. There's a lot of, basically, we provide the scholarship and we get the service, but we are not an accredited institution. And so the amount of time I put into the administration of that grant versus the output we'd see, I would normally say we wouldn't apply for that again. But that's where collectively we've taken that and said, well, we have an accredited credential program. Let's write our own and then use that challenge as an opportunity.
I feel like for CTE, grant money is going to be the only way forward, pretty much, at least with the state of California.
Absolutely. And, at some point, that might be where CTE is one of those areas where you got to build a bit to then you have to show a small investment to see the return. And we've been talking about how our PACs in many ways are engineering spaces, and those might be ways to also leverage CTE funding.
I would just echo something that Ms. Keppel said. I started my career basically at the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. in the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, back when we would have the 5-day blitz of having to fax out the grant to every school district in America that got one. Literally, we would arm ourselves. Everyone had to, like we talked about all hands on deck to serve lunch. It was all hands on deck to type fax numbers in and get them out at the same time. And I don't recall a single school district that looked like ours, a high-performing, high-income school district, winning any of these. It consistently went to the low-income school districts who, just were more easily rose to the top. So I know the immense complexity you have to do to make an application to make this school district stand out and say, no, even though we look like on paper that we have the resources, these are great things that we can do that can set a national model that can be replicated elsewhere. And I have to believe that's a big reason why the federal government's leaning in here is they've given the money, you've proven a model, it's been replicated elsewhere. This is a good incubator for this stuff. So I think it's just incredibly impressive to see that come together. So it's congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other, did we lose Ms. Mangus?
Happy hour.
3
She's there. I hear her. Okay.
of the 3 grants that are on the horizon, the Learning Recovery Funds, the A through G Completion Improvement, and the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. Currently, the only one that would be coming before the board is the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant by December of 2021. Is that correct?
Correct. We don't know if A through G will need to because we don't have the specifics, so it's possible. And the educator effectiveness one will need to be have a board-approved plan by December 1st. And just to prepare the board with every one of these comes its own LCAP. So every grant is going to have a very similar reporting plan moving forward. So.
Okay. Okay. If no other questions, we look forward to seeing Ms. Mingus in person.
Yes,
Next
can't
time.
wait.
I'm sure she does too. Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.